Masood Azhar and Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar. India exposes the trinity of terror in Pakistan.
Not allow, terrorism to happen by night and trade by day. I don't think the country is well served.
Dr. Jaishankar reveals how India checkmated China at the borders.
Our response to China on the northern borders has been one of our major, I would say, achievements in a way.
Canada's vote bank politics called out.
How Canada has dealt with the Khalistani issue has been a long-standing concern, because very frankly, they seem to be driven by vote bank politics.
Terror backers, Pakistan, China and Canada exposed. That's our top focus on India First. Big story breaking on India Today. India Today's access details of the negotiations between the government and General Atomics for the MQ-9B Sea Guardian drones for the Indian Armed Forces. Top government sources have told India Today the focus remains on technology transfer when it comes to the Predator drones. 31 of these drones are being negotiated. That's the deal we are being told. And domestic manufacturing remains high on government's agenda. According to top government sources, the prices being negotiated are much lower than prices other foreign powers have paid for the Guardians, the Sea Guardians and the Reaper drones. According to top government sources, transfer of technology will help the domestic drone manufacturing ecosystem in India, including the Defense Research and Development Organization. 21 of the 31 drones are to be assembled in India. But let's now come down to the nuts and bolts of the negotiations that are underway. And India Today has exclusive details. Engine components, radar processors, landing gears, part of the joint venture with companies in India. So top government sources have come out strongly defending the MQ-9B Sea Guardian and Predator drone deal with the United States of America. Prices still work in progress. The deal India is trying to negotiate involves elements of transfer of technology and co-manufacturing of components in India. Government sources insist there is a negotiation that's on when it comes to prices, but even benchmarks much lower than what the United States has sold these drones to other countries for. Two of India's finest defense voices, finest defense correspondents join me on India First. Shiv Arur and Abhishek Bhalla. And I want to come to you first, Shiv. From pricing to encouraging domestic manufacturing, India, according to government sources, is trying to negotiate a deal that will not just help our current and very pressing requirements, but also future domestic manufacturing ecosystem. What more can you tell us? What more are your sources telling you, Shiv?
Gaurav, this is a very comprehensive internal rebuttal in the form of a background briefing that's been released by the government in response to the many questions and claims that have been raised by the Congress party chiefly about this impending drone deal. Now, first of all, it's good that questions are being asked, but when they're based on, falsehoods, a total lack of understanding of how the process actually works, and some, perhaps insidious angles being picked out to project this as a dirty deal when negotiations haven't even begun yet, then you have this kind of rebuttal that very easily demolishes many of the claims being made. For one thing, the laughable claim that the drones we are buying are going to be 4 times costlier than the drones sold similarly to other countries. This background briefing document that the government has put out actually quantifies it, Gaurav. It says that, while you cannot compare similar deals of this kind because of the variables involved in defense procurement and configurations, while similar drones being sold to certain other countries cost about 1,200 crores a piece, India is negotiating it for about 812 crores a piece. Another laughable claim made by the Congress party is that the Cabinet Committee on Security hasn't been taken on board, when the reality, according to this document, and in fact something I can confirm, is that the Cabinet Committee on Security stage comes 7 steps later than where the current deal is situated. Another claim is about, how AI is not involved in this deal, which is ridiculous. That these drones are outdated. It doesn't take a defense expert or a journalist like me to tell you that the MQ-9 is very much a cutting-edge part of drone fleets in the United States and elsewhere. So to call them outdated, betrays a complete lack of understanding of what technology is here. Something that you put out, if I may just have 30 seconds more, Gaurav, is the issue of technology transfer and local indigenization and content. When they say that none of that is actually happening, the reality is, according to this document, the Indian government, if it gets what it is aiming for, it will actually be historic in terms of indigenization, because never before has there been local assembly of drones outside the United States. India is pushing for 21 of the 31 drones to be, assembled here, not manufactured. Many of those parts, including software, landing gear, engine parts, radar processing units, etc., to be locally sourced from here. So it's a very, very ambitious deal, but there are many variables. 31 such drones, $3 billion, so much indigenization. Will it all be achieved? We don't know. The fact is, the negotiation stage is going to start now.
Shiv, stay with me. I will come back to you, because help our viewers understand this. And, since there's so much of information now in public domain, and plus the half-truths and absolute lies. Who benefits if this deal does not happen? Which country benefits if India does not have cutting-edge technology? That's a question we'll seek answers to. But I also want to bring Abhishek Bhalla into this conversation. Shiv, stay with me. What more do we know, especially on tech transfer and pricing, Abhishek? It appears, as Shiv was also telling us, as this government document puts out, India is not paying more. But when you talk about a drone deal, what we require may be very different from what any other country may require. So is there, if I may, a comparison being made between apples and apples and oranges, or the same half-truths that were being peddled during the Rafale deal, perhaps to scuttle that deal, the aircraft that IAF so desperately wanted? Abhishek.
Well, Gaurav, sources in the government have clarified and given a rebuttal to the allegations made by the Congress party regarding the drone deal with US. Now, some of the key components of this clarification, or if we can call it a rebuttal, is one, that there are several aspects that relate to transfer of technology with this drone deal. So it's not just the fighter jet engine deal that HAL has signed, where technology transfer has happened, but also in this drone deal. And what government sources are saying is that the kind of technology transfer that is being made will also facilitate and ensure a platform for indigenous manufacturing of these drones within India. And in fact, out of the 31 drones, 21 will be manufactured in India. So that's a big boost to indigenous manufacturing. And sources also saying that DRDO will get a big boost with this knowledge that they get with the transfer of technology. So these are some of the key areas that the government is responding to. Also very significant is the fact that the government is stating that in fact the pricing is much less than what what other countries have got when it comes to these drones. According to the government, each drone costs a little over 800 crore, whereas other countries have got it for more than 1200 crore.
Yes.
So, this gives an answer to the Congress allegation that India is purchasing drones at a higher price. So a detailed rebuttal from the government on this aspect, but obviously politics is not going to die very soon, it seems, and we'll have to wait for the opposition to come up with another set of allegations probably.
No, and questions must be asked. We are a democracy and opposition must ask questions. That's essential. But when it comes to issues of national security, Shiv, first the Rafale, then the Predators. What do these platforms mean for the Indian Armed Forces, Shiv, given the situation along the LC and the LAC? Do these platforms become a major force multiplier for the country?
There's no doubt about it, Gaurav. India needs greater surveillance assets, and the Predator-type drones offer that kind of capability, especially the ones that India is hoping to acquire through this deal, because the kind of surveillance gaps, the kind of manpower involved in 24-hour surveillance is a hugely cost-intensive exercise, and the kind of capability that the MQ-9B drones bring to the table is something that the Indian Navy has already been getting a taste of through two leased drones over the last 3 years. So it's a game changer in many ways. Also remember that both Pakistan and China have Chinese long-range, high-altitude drones already in operation. So this is a gap that India has been trying to fight for a very, very long time. Also, don't forget, Gaurav, that we're talking about this drone deal now, but it hasn't been signed. It's probably a far distance from being signed, and it's been 7 years since it was when Manohar Parrikar was the Raksha Mantri when the initial proposal actually went out. So it's been 7 years. On the issue of cost, it has gotten stuck. And now you've got politics as well, which may very well, as you and I both know, delay a decision even
God
further.
Forbid.
So,
God forbid.
That's how things stand.
Shiv and Abhishek for joining me here on India First. Many thanks. The other big story on India First, Dr. S Jaishankar, India's External Affairs Minister, has exposed Pakistan, he's exposed China and Canada for supporting either terrorists or extremists. He's clearly said terror by night and trade by day is unacceptable, showing a mirror to Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. China for the situation along the LAC in gross violation of a number of peace and tranquility agreements in place for over 3 decades. And Canada for stooping to a new law supporting Khalistani elements for vote bank politics in Canada.
हम अपने कश्मीरी भाइयों की आजादी के लिए भी हर कुर्बानी देने के लिए तैयार.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S Jaishankar talks tough on Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror.
We cannot allow terrorism to be normalized. We cannot allow that to become the basis for getting us into discussions with Pakistan.
Another blunt remark on deteriorating ties with China, holding Beijing responsible for not adhering to a number of agreements between India and China.
There has to be an adherence to agreements which were reached between us, and it is that departure from what was agreed between us, difficult phase that we are passing through with China.
And exposing Canada on inaction against Khalistan supporters, blaming vote bank politics in the country.
For us, how Canada has dealt with the Khalistani issue has been a long-standing concern, because very frankly, they seem to be driven by vote bank politics.
Pakistan state-sponsored terror was clearly in the line of Dr. Jaishankar's fire, where he made it clear that ties will remain strained till Pakistan stopped cross-border terror.
Until there is departure from, I would say, an abrogation of this policy of cross-border terrorism, clearly it is not possible to have the normal relationship, and not allow, terrorism to happen by night and trade by day.
The External Affairs Minister said he was perplexed why the policy of zero tolerance for terror was not strictly followed earlier.
I don't think, to me it's a fairly common sense proposition. In fact, if anything, I'm still a little perplexed by why we had not arrived at this position earlier. But we have arrived at it now.
This statement came just after Prime Minister Narendra Modi's firm stance against terrorism at the US Congress.
More than 2 decades after 9/11 and more than a decade after 26/11 in Mumbai, radicalism and terrorism still remain a pressing danger for the whole world.
Dr. Jaishankar also spoke of India's strong steps along the line of actual control to checkmate China.
Yes, again, our response to China on the northern borders has been one of our major, I would say, achievements in a way, because if you look at the scale of the response and the very daunting conditions in which it was undertaken.
He made it clear improvement of ties with China depended directly on peace and tranquility prevailing along the line of actual control.
We recognize it's a neighbor, it's a big neighbor, it's today a very significant economy and significant power. But at the end of the day, any relationship has to be based on a high degree of mutuality. There has to be a respect for each other's interests, sensitivity for each other's interests.
Talking tough on overseas support to Khalistan extremists, Dr. Jaishankar expressed his disappointment at vote bank politics in Canada.
If there are activities which are permitted from Canada, which impinge on our sovereignty, territorial integrity, on our security, then, we will have to respond. So it is something which is I would say, a continuing conversation with Canada, not always a satisfactory conversation.
Confident and strong on facts, India is clearly exposing global doublespeak on terror, keeping India first. Bureau Report, India Today.
So is India finally calling a spade a spade? Is there merit in Dr. Jaishankar saying he's perplexed why such a policy was not followed earlier? Joining me on India First is Zainab Sikandar, a respected political analyst, and Sushant Sareen, senior fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Zainab Sikandar, let's talk about Pakistan first. Be it the parliament attack in 2001 or post-26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, both Vajpayee and Manmohan Singh governments continued to engage with Pakistan, as did the Modi government till the Pathankot terror attack. Post-Pulwama, has the Narendra Modi government adopted a completely different template post-2019? And should this template have been adopted much earlier, ma'am?
Definitely, the Modi government has been more iron-fisted when it comes to their policy with Pakistan, especially after Pulwama and especially after the Modi 2.0 government came into power. I think it's been a common theme with the BJP government when it came to the center that they spoke very strong-worded, statements against Pakistan, especially our External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar. He's always continued to speak in a very strong manner and denouncing the cross-border terrorism that Pakistan has always sponsored. And, it's never been taken up the way the Modi government has taken it up. There is no doubt about it.
Sushant Sareen, earlier Western countries, and including the United States, they would talk down to India, force India to engage with Pakistan, even if it was to look after NATO or ISAF interests in Afghanistan, the International Security Assistance Force in Afghanistan. But has the Modi government changed the template completely and brought even the West on India's platform. Terror and talks cannot go on simultaneously.
Yeah, I think there is a recognition in the rest of the world, partly because we've taken a very forthright position that we refuse to engage with the Pakistanis the way we used to. And I think the world has started recognizing that, beyond a point, you cannot push double standards onto India. Now, of course, there are certain Uncle Toms in the US. For example, a certain professor who recently gave an interview who said that, the only problem with Pakistan was that why were they targeting civilians? As long as they were sponsoring terrorism in India, killing security force personnel, it was okay, we could still talk to them.
Unacceptable,
So,
absolutely.
there have been crazies like this who pontificate about how India should conduct its affairs. But I think there is a clear recognition in India that the kind of stuff which has been pushed through from Pakistan is just not acceptable anymore. We are putting our foot down. That does not mean, Gaurav, that we've refused to engage with the Pakistanis. In fact, even while the government has taken a very forthright position against the Pakistanis, at the back channel, there were a lot of negotiations still going on.
Yes.
But I think that is a far more business-like kind of an engagement, a far more cold, calculated kind of an engagement, rather than, that Mombatti brigade, which was
or calling some nondescript non-entity in Pakistan a man of peace, or you're absolutely right, lighting that candle in Vaga while they would light a bomb in Mumbai. But Zainab Sikandar, let's now talk about China. Is there merit in Dr. Jaishankar highlighting India's response post Galwan? He says one of our major achievements has been our response to China on our northern borders, ma'am.
See, let's be honest. Mr. S Jaishankar again is noted to have very strong. I'm sorry, I can hear your studio, so I'm not able to speak.
Okay, go on, ma'am. We're just muting everything else. Go on.
So, Mr. S Jaishankar has always been very clear about how he speaks in a very, aggressive way when it comes to diplomacy with be it China, be it Pakistan, and even Canada or US. But the reality is with China, India has always seemed to be very timid because the euphemisms that India is using when it comes to, the encroachments of China into India, calling it just friction points or using words like peace and tranquility has been restored now when the Chinese military steps back. So the euphemisms basically show that India is still not ready to give any costs, diplomatic costs to China when it comes to them encroaching upon India. Their warfare infrastructure, which China has done on territory which is exclusively under Indian jurisdiction, when India doesn't even pick that up as a topic, it seems as if India is choosing to ignore what China is doing just because China is such a big superpower when it comes to how they are economically. In fact, India contributes to 11.5% of the trade surplus that China has economically. And the worst part is that India is only doing cosmetic surgical strikes when it comes to, giving an apt response to China economically. For example, banning TikTok or Chinese apps.
Okay.
But fact of the matter
remains, cosmetic surgical strike. But Sushant Sareen, what should we make, like Dr. Jaishankar says, Galwan, India stood up to China. In the past, Doklam, India has stood up to China. Or the QPQ operations, the government seems to indicate that salami slicing of Indian territory earlier, that stopped. Words like acne on a beautiful face type comments or Wuhan and Mahabalipuram kind of spirit versus reality check at Galwan. Or is this still too little and perhaps too late to stand up to China?
No, I don't think it's too late, but I think, yes, I would agree with anybody who argues that maybe we can do more. I think we have done a lot. I don't necessarily agree with the description that it's been a very timid response. Look, if you put a mirror deployment of almost 60,000 troops with all kinds of weapon systems, it's not a timid response. I think it's a very strong response to what the Chinese trying to browbeat you and you standing up to them. Now, if Zainab is talking about, the kind of language which is used, then I think the language from the Chinese side is just as ambiguous as the kind of language we are using. I don't think they are pointing fingers at us or they are accusing us directly. So I think there is that kind of diplomacies which is going on between India and China. Now, I agree with Zainab up to a point when she says that, about the trade balance and the trade deficits that we are running with the Chinese. But, it's not just about the apps that have been banned. There have been a complete ouster of all Chinese companies from, for example, critical infrastructure. How many other countries have done this? We have banned, for example, the Chinese giants like Huawei and ZTE and a whole lot of other guys from bidding into any Indian contracts anymore. I think the Chinese don't exactly like this. I think the problem really is, however, of the trade imbalance. We need to fix that. Now, I think not enough has been done to reduce that gap. Not enough has been done to discourage, those imports from China. Some imports we will still have to do.
Yes.
Gaurav, I don't think it makes any sense to shoot ourselves in the head simply because we want to do grandstanding until, of course, there is a shooting match between India and China. But when tensions are growing, there is a lot more we can do. And out there, I agree with Zainab. But not on everything what she said.
I've run out of time on this part of the show. We wanted to talk about Canada, but perhaps in the days ahead. Zainab Sikandar and Sushant Sareen, as always, many thanks for joining me here on India First. Siddharth Zarabi comes up next with Business Today. Stay with us.
Best colleges of the country. Which one will boost your aspirations? From courses to placements, know them all. India Today Best Colleges Survey 2023. Issue out this Friday, 23rd June. Subscribe now to indiatoday.in/subscribe.
Andheri subway submerged. Colonies waterlogged, roads submerged. India's financial capital, Mumbai, is on high alert as monsoon sweeps across the country. Waterlogging led to traffic jams in several areas on Wednesday. Water entered the police station in Manpada, where police personnel were seen working in water. The Met Department has predicted very heavy rain for Mumbai and central Maharashtra over the next 48 hours.
आने वाले 4-5 दिनों में महाराष्ट्र के कोंकण तट और अंदरी इलाकों मतलब जो घाट परिसर है मध्य महाराष्ट्र का, वहां हमने भारी से अति भारी वर्षा, बहुत बार हेवी रेन का चेतावनी दिया है.
The rains have kept the BMC on its toes.
कि हमें अंदेशा है कि अगले 4 से 5 दिन हैवी रेनफॉल होने वाली है. तो आज हमने सुबह मैंने जो हमारे जितने फील्ड ऑफिसर हैं, वार्ड ऑफिसर्स, जोनल डिप्टी कमिश्नर्स, हमारे जो स्टॉर्म वाटर ड्रेन के सैकड़ों इंजीनियर्स और ये 480 जो मेंटर्स हैं, इंजीनियर्स हैं डी वाटरिंग पंप्स के, उनको मैंने एक व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में आदेश दिया है कि कोई भी ऑफिस नहीं बैठेगा, सब मुझे लोग फील्ड में चाहिए.
The rains have claimed one life in Mumbai. A 38-year-old man died in Malad after a tree fell on him. Every year, the authorities have failed the average Mumbaikar, making the monsoons a nightmare and at times even a death trap for the citizens. Bureau Report, India Today.
Why does this happen? Let me tell you the science behind it.
For more informative videos like this, keep watching India Today News Mo.
and welcome to Business Today Television. I am Siddharth Zarabi, and with me, Robin Rana. Welcome to Business Today Television, and I should, in fact, be welcoming you viewers from this office and these eye-catching red steps. Robin, where does this go really? Is this the pathway to money?
Well, I don't know that, but it is basically what we're trying to do. Look, you're dealing with youth in India.
Okay.
And so I architected a building. The whole idea was to bring dynamism, energy, and life into the building. And part of the building these are Times Square steps, New York, Manhattan. Okay. So you see the backdrop of Manhattan in the back. These are steps that you see at Times Square. Our